Hello, it is Monday, June 9th, and welcome to Citizen McCain. We have a big show for you today. We're going to talk about these crazy LA riots, Terry Moran, the Elon Musk and Trump fallout, and a lot of other dishy stuff, including an haunted Annabelle doll update. If you're listening on the podcast and you want to join us on Zoom, you can register to do that at tway.tv/Megan. Don't forget to raise your digital hand if you want to ask a question. And lastly, sorry to do this housekeeping, but if you have not subscribed to our YouTube channel yet, you should. We're at youtube.com/at Citizen McCain YouTube. I don't know why our thing is so complicated. It should just be Citizen McCain, but it's at Citizen McCain YouTube. Thank you
Yeah.
all so much. It's growing. And we're happy to have anybody anywhere listening, even if it's from a tin can with a string.
Yep.
Um, I just want to open up. Oh, and I'm sorry. Our guest today is going to be Brent Sher, who's the editor in chief of the Daily Wire. And we're going to get into all this with him as well. But first, Miranda, you live in Los Angeles. We were watching, not all weekend, the past, I don't know,
I don't know, last 24
40
hours or so.
hours,
Yeah.
24, 36 hours. Yeah, about these LA protests, which for people that maybe don't know, they're over ICE detentions, which there was tear gas, reports of Antifa. Trump has said he is sending in the National Guard. We are unsure if the 2,000 National Guard troops are actually in Los Angeles, but they were sent in to address the escalating protests against federal immigration raids, and Trump's move bypassed Gavin Newsom's authority, raising legal concerns about the federal government's role in state affairs. I will say this has happened. It is not illegal. It is unusual. Like it is not something that is usually done unless governors ask for. And we have pictures right here of all of the riots going on. It is not something that's normally done unless the governor of a state decides to. The deployment was carried out under the Title 10 authority, allowing the president to federalize the National Guard, but experts have criticized the move. They are also threatening, Pete Hegseth has said that he is going to have Marines at Camp Pendleton on alert. Camp Pendleton isn't that far away from Los Angeles. I just first and foremost, when you were getting ready to come on the show, Miranda, you said you heard helicopters over your
hmm
house. We don't want to tell people exactly where you live, but you do live in Los Angeles. What I can't tell if this is obviously this is a big deal, and obviously there's violence and chaos happening, but Los Angeles is an enormous city. I used to live there,
Huge.
and what's happening in one area could not impact another. Are you concerned? What is the vibe like? And do you have any friends that are in the midst of it?
Concern for my personal safety? No. I am way far enough removed away from it that I have no concerns. These protests are like more local in downtown LA and areas like Compton and Paramount, and that's more southern than I am. But I don't know anybody at the protests, but I also don't know anybody who's posting about it too much. Like everyone's just kind of watching it to see what's going to happen. Um, it's really surprising to me how intense it got over the course of Sunday because Friday was a blip of news, like a little bit, hey, this is what's happening. Saturday, I didn't even hear a peep about it. And then on Sunday, it just turned into this huge powder keg. So I can't help but correlate and tie the escalation to President Trump sending in National Guard and overstepping because truly, like, if the LAPD was spread so thin and they couldn't handle this, what looked like mostly peaceful protests until it got like super crazy, they were like in the Pride Parade. There were cops doing other stuff in parts of LA for Pride weekend. So it's not like it was all hands on deck for this because there were, hipsters throwing rocks at each other. So I don't know what to make of it. I saw videos of protesters being trampled by police horses and being hit by cars and like um, ice cars and getting like hit and run, basically. Like they ran over the head of the SEIU, David Huerta. So it's like they're not, their hands aren't exactly clean either on the other side.
Can we show the video of the LA protesters? I think it's number three if we have it right here. And then I'll give you guys my quick hot take before we have Brett come on. Okay, so you can't hear it, but you can see it. So those are just some videos of the protesters. This isn't as violent as some of the other images can be. So my main takeaway to like break this down in as simple an explanation as possible is Under the Trump administration, which, by the way, it is worth noting that 54% of Hispanic Americans voted for President Trump. I think that's always notable. And a huge issue for Hispanic Americans is immigration. They tend to be the biggest immigration hawk, short of the hyper-conservative white boomers. President Trump was elected in some part because people are sick of having open borders and people being here illegally. Now, we can litigate how we feel, how you feel, but it is extremely popular among the American public wanting to deport people who have been here illegally, who are overstaying their visas, who, have crossed the border numerous times without any penalization whatsoever. It is also 2025. It is not 2020. And the idea that people like Dana Bash, who is a friend of mine, can go on TV and say this is not a riot and they're not going to just be read to hell as she was all day yesterday. This is a totally different era. There are a few things you can count on in history, but one of them is people want law and order, at least Americans do. And anytime there isn't law and order, it benefits Republicans and it penalizes Democrats. That's in no small part how President Nixon got elected, and I think in no small part how Trump got reelected. And the thing I don't understand with these lawmakers, Democrat lawmakers, is one thing I learned in 2020, which I didn't know before, is that people on the left, not everybody, but most progressive lawmakers are fine with violence, destruction, looting, businesses being destroyed, small businesses being destroyed, people's lives being destroyed, as long as it is for a political movement that they agree with. Like in the name of stopping ICE raids, they're okay with destruction and police officers being hurt. And the thing I was watching some of the footage yesterday, and one of the things I don't understand, and there isn't a lot of explanation that I'm going to accept, is why these protesters are flying Palestine flags and Mexico flags and spitting on the American flag when the protest in and of itself, I am assuming, is because you want to stay in this country and be an American. I also think the state of California, which I know you love, Miranda, and we have many friends who live in California who I also love and respect. I don't totally get why you all still live there, but everybody's choice is their choice. California should be this metropolis for America. It's the fifth largest economy on the planet. And Los Angeles is a disaster. It's actually, a sort of beta test for what can go wrong with the wrong policies. And I actually think if California wants to be a sanctuary state, if Los Angeles wants to be a sanctuary city, maybe we should allow them to do it and let them live with the economic, social, societal consequences that come with having complete open borders in the state. But I do not want it to be my problem, and I do not want it to be America's problem. People don't like this. People don't like destruction of any kind. I've sat in on more focus groups than I could possibly tell you. You can look at any data in any polling place, anywhere. People don't like it. And the problem for Democrats right now is you can't come out and say you're okay with all of this. You're anti to making people who have been here illegally leave the country. Again, we can have a conversation about dreamers and people like that, but I just think Democrats are like Lucy with the football. It's like, didn't you learn in 2020 how badly this turned out for you? We just had another referendum election, and this is a lose, lose, lose issue. So I don't understand why people like Vice President Harris are coming out and saying it's fine and Trump is wrong. I'm not saying Trump isn't doing, some things that are like the way I interpret it is like he's making up for not coming in fast enough in 2020 when the George Floyd riots were just raging out of control. But I think if these people think that we're going to have another summer of love like we did in 2020, expect the National Guard and Marines and have major military presence in your cities if you think that's going to happen. The American public are not going to put up with it, and the Trump administration sure as hell is not going to put up with it. And before you comment, because I know I've been filibustering a little bit, Miranda, I just want to show this clip of your governor, Newsom, daring President Trump to arrest him. Number 4, please.
When the borders are said to me yesterday, he did not rule out literally arresting you.
Yep.
Nor Mayor Bass, if you interfere in his words. He said you hadn't yet.
He's a tough guy. Why doesn't he do that? He knows where to find me. But you know what? Let your hands off 4-year-old girls that are trying to get educated. Let your hands off these poor people. They're just trying to live their lives, man. Trying to live their lives, paying their taxes. Been here 10 years. The fear, the horror. The hell is this guy? Come after me, arrest me. Let's just get it over with. Tough guy. I don't give a damn. But I care about my community. I care about this community. The hell are they doing? These guys need to grow up. They need to stop. And we need to push back. And I'm sorry to be so clear, but that kind of bloviating is exhausting. So, Tom, arrest me. Let's go.
I mean, he's not going to be arrested. I'm not even entirely sure what this is about. But one thing I would tell Gavin Newsom if he was asking me is that the problem with some of these people in California and him and some of these sheriffs and people that say that they are not going to implement the law, we are either a nation of laws or we are not. If you won't implement that law, what's it to stop someone in, whatever, if you're a pro-choice person, someone from saying that we're not going to perform abortions in X state. Like, if you say that we are not going to enact laws and you're a law enforcement person and you're a government official, it's chaos. It's like abject insanity. And I think, unfortunately for Gavin Newsom, he is someone who has just shown over and over again that he lacks the skills and leadership to get his city and his state out of any kind of crisis. And Mr. French Laundry doesn't scare me at all with the tough guy talk that he wants to be arrested. I understand our guest is here, but just really quickly, Miranda, do you want to respond to any of that? And for people that don't know, Miranda and I disagree on many things and still love and respect each other.
My response is that, this is an overwhelmingly emotional situation, because it's not, like you said, it's not as exactly black and white as that. It's like people who are trying to do the right things to be here legally. They're going to their ICE check-ins and then they're getting scooped up. And it's like moms who are expected to come home and make dinner for their kids and they're never coming home again. And they don't know why. So that's a big part of what this is all about. And I understand Gavin Newsom's frustration when he says, the Conservative Party is all about states' rights and, not so much overreach. And then all of a sudden he's sending National Guard and military, activating the military when the governor didn't ask for it. So does Gavin Newsom get arrested? Does Karen Bass get arrested? Does Maxine Waters get arrested? No, they're not going to get arrested because it would look too good for them. They would become
totally
martyrs. It'd be like Gavin Newsom's face on a t-shirt, like the Che Guevara shit. So, I don't like either side of this. I think that people should not be throwing rocks and kicking tear gas cans and all of that. And I don't think that the police should be shooting reporters with the rubber bullets. And macing babies in their strollers.
But who is bringing a baby to a protest? Or use your two brain cells. I wouldn't even bring my kids to Disneyland yet because I think it's a little too chaotic.
Disneyland's actually fine. I've been there a bunch of times.
Just really
and
quick.
That's really far away from the riots, by the way. So everybody, Disneyland's fine.
You could go. Brent Sher is here on the call. We're so excited to have him. He is the editor-in-chief of the Daily Wire. You can follow him on X and Instagram at Brent SCHER. Brent, thank you so much for taking time today to join us.
Yeah, of course.
Really quickly, can you turn up his volume a little bit? I just want to ask you, Brent, we've been talking about these LA riots. We've been talking about Gavin Newsom's response. One thing I learned in 2020 that I'll never forget is just Democrat lawmakers just have a really high tolerance for destruction and violence in a way that people on my side, our side, I assuming you're conservative, you work with the Daily Wire, do not. And I think part of the reason why I'm fine with Trump sending in Marines or the National Guard or whatever is because I just think that these people will let their cities burn to the ground and they'll never take any control of it because they're okay with violent protests. What do you think of what's going on, and do you agree with what I just said?
I do agree with what you just said. The only thing is, I've kind of thought in the last few weeks or months since the election that the Democrats kind of learned a lesson last November. I mean, there was an article, I think it's amazing. It came out on Saturday morning in Politico. It was on the Democrat effort to unwoke themselves. And it was about how kind of, there's a reason why he's going on Charlie Kirk to talk about, I don't think that men should be playing in women's sports. But then it was like all of those lessons of the past 6-7 months just vanished overnight. Now Gavin Newsom's up to the same old thing. I mean, there is no way that this is part of an effort to unwoke himself. I mean, if he runs for president, this is what everybody's going to be talking about, that when California citizens, or maybe not citizens, fought ICE, Gavin Newsom took the side of the protesters who were burning cars, burning Waymo vehicles, writing, abolish the police on cop cars. That is Gavin Newsom's. If he doesn't come out against that, that is his. And I do not understand how he can at the same time think that he's unwoking himself. This is as woke as it gets.
Brent, I need you to talk to me like I'm really stupid because I don't understand this at all. And I've been trying to figure this out. Why are the protesters flying Palestine flags and Mexico flags and spitting on the American flag when my understanding of this is these are people who want to stay in America, who want to be American citizens? I don't understand the messaging. I don't understand why we're burning American flags other than there's rumors that it's Antifa that's a part of this. I just think all of this is writing ads for the upcoming 2028 election cycle and helping future President Vance get elected.
Yeah, I mean, the only explanation for it is that obviously the same protesters who show up for the anti-Israel protests are the same people that show up to the anti-ICE protests. There are obviously a lot of just opportunists, especially in cities like LA, who love the idea of protesting and confrontations with police and federal officials. This is like their Super Bowl. So when one of these comes up, they all descend on it, probably from LA and all surrounding areas. So, I mean, they just swap out their Palestinian flags for Mexican flags. They don't even bail on the keffiyehs. They just,
No.
keep the same outfit going. But that's what just is so bizarre to me. Obviously, this is 2028 ads like writing themselves. And that's where I don't get it. Maybe for Kamala Harris, who probably knows that her future is maybe California governor or something in state. But Gavin Newsom clearly thinks that his future is on the national stage. He's obviously one of the front runners for the Democrat nomination. So for him to believe that this is the smart thing to do to lead the Democrat Party from I think its lowest point in the history of the Democrat Party in the polls, like, there's a reason why. It's because they are seen as the anti-police party. They are seen as the party of disorder and protests in the streets, protests on college campuses. Gavin Newsom should know that this is not what he wants to be a part of. And yet he's like taunting Tom Homan and President Trump on MSNBC to all their viewers for what? I do not understand why his team thinks this is an opportunity. Maybe they're looking at some polling that nobody else in the world can see because it makes no sense.
My last question for you on this subject. I have a friend who works in the Trump administration who told me that they believe that these protests are more than likely to spread around the country to different major cities. I have been screaming this all morning, but I'm not doing 2020 again. I'm not doing this shit again. I'm not having people, loot my CVS over and over again, have small businesses, immigrant families who own small businesses get their lives destroyed. I'm just not doing this. And I think the vast majority of the American public agree. Do you think that the Trump administration will be very bullish on clamping down on this? Or do you think we're going to have another summer of love, destruction, insanity again?
I think they'll have to be. I mean, the pressure is on the Trump administration right now. We saw a little bit of it in New York City over the weekend. I think it was on Friday night, maybe Saturday night. Some activists got in the way of an ICE raid, and I think a lot of them got arrested by the NYPD. But the reason why the Summer of Love protests and George Floyd spread across the country was because there were no repercussions. These people like heroes. Tom Cotton's advice to send in the troops was not followed. So we had protests everywhere, and it lasted a year. So Trump, I think, already has been stronger. There's talk of they sent in the National Guard. There's talk of sending in the Marines. It's now the first weekday, so we'll see what charges these people who were arrested actually face. But if you send the message that go and, do your destruction, burn down cop cars, throw bricks at passing by vehicles, if there are no repercussions, people will continue to throw bricks. People will continue to light press vehicles on fire. But if you arrest them and, put them in jail for years for assaulting police officers. I don't think that the same amount of people are going to show up when they try this in Boston or New York or Washington, D.C. So, I mean, I think Trump understands that. Trump was president in 2020 when he let this happen. I think he was probably getting some advice from some not so smart people who I don't think are in the White House anymore.
I
So
think we all know who you're referencing. I had a conversation that's hilarious. You bring it up about that this morning. And I'm really glad they're not in the White House right now.
yeah, and I mean, he was getting bad advice on a lot of things. And guess what happened? He lost an election to what probably the least impressive Democrat candidate in years. And then, I mean, in 2024, he ran on there will not be protests in the street anymore. Now it's 2025 and there are protests in the street and pressure's on him to stop them. And if he does, I do not see these protests continuing across the country.
Can we switch gears for a second? So over the weekend, Brent, I'm sure you've seen this. We're going to play the audio for everyone who hasn't, but the current DNC chairman, Ken Martin, there's this really insane audio that came out of him on a conference call, and he's crying to David Hogg. People who don't know who David Hogg is, he's the gun activist who became the DNC vice chair and has created a lot of infighting among Democrats. This leaked audio was from a May 15th Zoom meeting, and I will let it speak for itself, but Martin accuses Hogg of undermining his credibility and leadership. Can we play number 11, please?
The other night I said to myself for the first time, I don't know if I want to do this anymore. And partly not because of the stress and all the naysayers, right? I'm used to that. I've spent 14 years as a chair. I'm used to getting beat up on. But, this is really everything, from this election, this credentials report and how Malcolm's been treated in this to, the fact the election itself, how Shasti and Gina were treated in this. I'm just quite frustrated to be in this position because what you've done, whether you like it or not, or know it or not, David, is no one knows who the hell I am, right? I'm trying to get my sea legs underneath of me and actually develop any amount of credibility so I can go out there and raise the money and do the job I need to put ourselves in a position to win. And again, I don't think you intended this, but you essentially destroyed any chance I have to show the leadership that I need to.
Okay, Brent, I have been obsessed with David Hogg being elected the vice chair of the DNC because he's like an amalgamation and a stereotype of like everything that is going wrong with men on the Democrat side. He's like the most woke, annoying, like just stupid, loves infighting, wants the most progressive people in the world to be elected to everything. No respect at all for centrist Democrats or people who are like maybe Democrat, like coming over to the party wanting to take a look. I mean, he's just one of, I think, the great villains on the left. What do you make of this? And I kind of felt bad for Ken Martin. Like crying on a Zoom is an intense move. And then to have it leaked, like who leaked that? Why are you leaking? Miranda's making
Why are you trying to like so like the party's so fractured enough? You're just making it worse. Like who's doing this?
Yeah, like who's leaking this Zoom? Like
Why are men crying on TV all the time? It's so weird. Okay,
I felt bad for him, Brian.
Yeah,
No, I
did too.
I really, maybe that's terrible, but I did. What is going on? And what did you make of this?
I mean, there's so much, and you said we were changing,
Yes.
but we're not actually changing gears. This is exactly what's going on with the Democrat Party. They're trying to shift away from this woke insanity that is David Hogg. Like, no message control, embrace every single progressive issue and embrace it in the most radical leftist way possible. So as the Democrats are trying to do that, he has David Hogg, who's now, a DNC official, undermining any attempt to kind of change the image of the party. So yeah, I feel bad for him too. I also feel bad for the Democrats who are, they can't see what's right in their face. I mean, they're spending $20 million for a study on why the party has trouble with young men. Look at David Hogg. That's why the party has trouble with young men, because he is what they're putting forth as, what young men should be, what successful young men should be. Nobody wants to be David Hogg. He is a whiny, like misinformed fool who, is posting selfie videos on every single issue and not getting a lot of likes for them. But, there are people in the party who want Hogg to take that role. They want David Hogg to be Ken Martin and kind of push the party in that direction. But again, this is just the question on whether they take the lesson of 2024, which was quite clearly, do not put forth more David Hoggs. If you do, you will get crushed across the country. So Ken Martin probably is hearing that from donors. He's like, okay, yeah, I'll give you guys money, but can we stop with all this insanity? Can we be normal? Can we try and talk to Americans about the issues they want to talk about and meet them where they are rather than scold them about what they need to think about pride, what they need to think about climate change, what they need to think about gun control. And the right answer is always, according to David Hogg, probably the furthest left position. So Ken Martin is probably trying to moderate, and then he has David Hogg making it absolutely impossible. But it might be true of the Democrats. I think it's actually impossible for them to, moderate here because there are too many activists that have control of their party. And as long as you have the AOCs and the David Hoggs and the Ilhan Omars opining on every single thing that happens, it's going to be very hard to convince America that Democrats aren't crazy.
Brent, one of the things I really love about politics the most is that it's very clean. It's about addition and subtraction. There's a winner, there's a loser, there is a fight, and someone wins. And the thing I don't understand about Democrats is Republicans after 2012. You look young. I don't know how old you are, but back in 2012, back when I was much younger, we did an autopsy report about all the things that the party was doing wrong and tried to implement it. And ultimately, Trump did take a lot of the messaging from that, flipped it on its head, and turned the party into what it is today, which is a wildly successful, obviously, apparatus. The thing I don't understand about Democrats is you're getting data over and over again. You're getting focus groups. You are losing election after election after election. And your answer is David Hogg and be okay with violence in cities again. Is it just, and then I started thinking maybe Democrats don't actually care about winning anymore. What's important to them is that they are just activists at this point. They just want their message loud and across the board. But AOC has never actually passed a bill, to my knowledge, so far. Maybe we just have activist figures screaming all day, and winning isn't something that's important to them. Does that sound like a conspiracy theory, or do you think there's some truth to that?
There are definitely some people who probably don't care about winning or not. I think what's interesting here, and I am old enough to have been around. I was a political reporter in 2012.
You look really young. I don't know.
So I think I hear this all the time and in conversations about politics, how politics is all a pendulum, and believe me, the Democrats will have power again, and after that, the Republicans will have power again. And it's true, but it's true because of data and lessons learned, and there being a lot of smart people and money involved in, figuring out what sides of issues to take. If Democrats don't change their ways from 2024, I don't see this pendulum swinging as hard as others think it will swing. The David Hogg argument is not going to take back the House in 2026. The assumption that Democrats will take back the House in 2026 is based on this idea that they'll change their ways a little bit. I think one of the challenges they're facing is that 2020 and even 2022, when they were successful, I think it might have taught them the wrong lessons. They won an election after these George Floyd riots and going all in on transgenderism and Pride Month and all those things. They were told in 2020 that this was okay and these were winning positions. I think 2020 is almost like an anomaly of an election that we maybe need to throw out of the studies. It was during COVID lockdowns. It was like Trump's first term. I think the Democrats came out with a very, very wrong idea about the country from 2020. And they should have learned in 2024 that it's not going to work. So, I mean, we'll see whether they learn better lessons after 2026. And I guess the whole country will see in 2026 whether we're right. I mean, you said at the beginning here, like, I think that Americans overwhelmingly support Trump's deportation rates. And there was some polling over the weekend I saw that I think 54% agree with what Trump's ICE is doing. We'll see whether that stands. I think it will actually go up if there's more resistance to the ICE raids, and like, you know, the guy in the Mexican flag on a motorcycle circling around a burning cop car. I do not think that is going to help them. I think that's going to be like, get a lot of Americans on the fence being like, yeah, we probably do need to get a lot of these people out of the country. And the Trump administration is doing a good job on that. They're giving a ton of information. I think there was a time where they maybe wouldn't tell you who's getting deported and like why. Now it's different. Like the second these raids happened in LA, we had in our inbox from the White House the charges and the reasons why these people were being deported. And it's because, you know, they're rapists, they're kidnapping kids. Like, these are bad people that nobody wants in the country, except probably like the polar 5% who's out fighting with ICE agents in the street. So, I mean, there will be lessons to learn from this. And again, I mean, I've said it a few times. The question is whether the Democrats want to learn those lessons and if they're able to, because there are David Hoggs out there who will tell them to shut their eyes and not believe it and be as radical as possible. And that is the way forward. It's not. They'll lose more elections in 2026, in 2028. They'll just keep losing.
Just a reminder to raise your digital hand if you have a question for me, Miranda, or Brent. Brent, I wanted to also ask you, this is old news at this point, but it was big news on Friday. The Elon Trump breakdown. I was very surprised to see Elon Musk go after President Trump the way he did. For people that weren't paying attention, Elon Musk accused President Trump of being on the Epstein flight list. Trump has reportedly been going around and, according to ABC News, talking to reporters about how Elon Musk is, quote, a big-time drug addict, and was referring to Musk's alleged ketamine use for depression. I want to show you a clip. Vice President Vance was actually on Theo Vaughn's podcast and was asked about this, and I want you to watch his response. Number 6, please.
I'm not saying he has to agree with the bill or agree with everything that I'm saying. I just think it's a huge mistake for the world's wealthiest man. I think one of the most transformational entrepreneurs ever, that's Elon, to be at this war with the world's most powerful man, who I think is doing more to save the country than anybody. I mean, I'm 40 years old, anybody in my lifetime. I just think you got to have some respect for him and say, look, yeah, we don't have to agree on every issue. I'm talking about if you're Elon Musk, you don't have to agree with this on every issue, but is this war actually in the interest of the country? I don't think so. So hopefully Elon figures it out, comes back into the fold.
Okay, Brent, were you surprised at the blow up? I think Vice President Vance handled that as best as he possibly could, and he makes a good point that it's nobody's benefit to have these two people fighting. I always sort of thought that Elon Musk, for as much as he helped President Trump financially, so, you know, culturally, all these things, I always thought they were strange bedfellows, because I do think some of the things that Elon Musk wants that have to do with his neonatalist movement that he heads, some of his companies, that they're in direct correlation with a lot of things that conservatives believe and want the country to look like. What do you make of their breakup? And do you think there's any chance of any kind of reconciliation? Oh, and it's worth noting, Elon did delete the tweet accusing Trump of being on the Epstein flight list.
Yeah, he deleted the tweet. I'll also note that yesterday he posted, you know, some American flags, quote tweeting, I think, a J.D. Vance post about Trump's response to the protests. I think the protests actually, in a lot of ways, are like a huge favor to the White House, because it changed the news cycle immediately from Trump Elon to what's going on in LA. And it also reminded Elon Musk of like, yeah, no, the Democrats are not the place for me. I mean, going back, like on talking about how it's this weird relationship, Elon Musk voted for Barack Obama in 2012. He was an open supporter of Barack Obama, but Trump put together a very odd coalition, and it was because the Democrats had gone so crazy of Elon Musk. He brought in RFK, who, I mean, if anybody had told you that 8 years ago, you would have told them they were crazy. So, I mean, going back to whether I was surprised by it, a little bit. I mean, obviously, you're surprised the day it's happening of how crazy it's going. Obviously, it's not that surprising that two of the biggest egos in America and probably the world end up in a kind of argument when neither of them got their way. I think most people are circling around on the fact that it really does all come down to Trump abandoning Elon Musk's pick to head NASA. I mean, if you look at Elon Musk, I think it's been clear for some time that the thing that is most important to Elon Musk is getting to Mars. And he always viewed Trump as, you know, his ally in this, and thought that Trump was going to help him get there. Trump all of a sudden isn't taking his advice on space with who the NASA administrator should be. And I think that ruffled a lot of feathers and made it just hard for this relationship to go on. I do think that for the future of Elon Musk, he will realize that a third party like he's floated on X isn't really the best idea. It's probably not going to be that successful, not just because what he's positioned.
No, it's stupid. Yeah, I was like, whatever. Anyway, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, no, like, this issue isn't actually as popular as he thinks it is, like siding with Rand Paul on another spending bill. Like, yeah, on Twitter, it may seem like Rand Paul has a lot of support and Rand Paul's views have a lot of support. But Rand Paul was in that election against Trump in 2016. I think he got to Iowa and not after Iowa. He's the candidate that, you know, will win the CPAC straw poll and then get 0 actual votes. And I think X is actually kind of similar to the CPAC straw poll. It's a lot of people who like really, really, really care about politics and like are very engaged. The American people are much more into Trump's brand of the Republican Party than Rand Paul's brand of the Republican Party. But again, and Trump put this in one of his tweets, like, I do this for a living. Elon Musk does not do this for a living. He's a very smart guy, like one of the smartest people in the country. And he definitely was instrumental in helping Trump win. But I do not think that even with all the money he has, a third party is going to be successful, like much because of the U.S. system. The U.S. system doesn't really allow for a very powerful third party. It usually just ends up being a party that ruins another party. So that's why Trump is saying, Elon, please do not get involved in the midterms. You will regret it. So I actually think Elon may just not come back in the fold, but just chill out a little bit, go and focus on Tesla, go and focus on SpaceX, go and focus on XAI, Starlink. I mean, the guy has so many things to focus on that taking a step back from politics, like he was supposed to do after he left Doge, might not be the worst thing for him, but we'll see. I mean, they both have a lot of opinions and strong opinions and don't like being seen as the one backing down from a fight, but I think things our heads may prevail.
Really quick, Brent, we actually have a question from Lucas, I believe. If we can let him into the room. Hi, Lucas. How are you? What is your question?
Doing good there. Doing good, Megan. Nice to finally to come back on the show.
Nice to have you. Where are you based right now?
I'm based out of Chicago, so Chicagoland area. First off, I did want to say I love Rand Paul. I've actually got a Lincoln bus he signed
Look
in
at that.
2016. Probably my prized possession, just between being a Lincoln file. So my question is kind of Pride Month related, but also I wanted your perspective on it, Megan. I'm a gay American. I'm libertarian, honestly. there's a lot of people that in the community that do support kind of chilling down on too much of the DEI thing and making people feel like an object, that like our sexuality matters more than our qualifications. However, and the news came out last week that Secretary Pete Hegseth was set to announce on Pride weekend, but it leaked beforehand that he's renaming the USS Harvey Milk, which for one is just like a refueling ship. It's not like a battleship or anything crazy. Harvey Milk was at one point a Wall Street Republican, a Barry Goldwater libertarian, a anti-Vietnam War Democrat, and a San Francisco progressive. I mean, he was on the spectrum of everywhere and understood that, no matter your sexuality, you can have different opinions. And I just wanted your opinion as far as what message does this really send, and also that is this helpful, or like is there something I'm missing from here?
Well, first of all, and Brent, I will get you and Miranda in after I'm done speaking. First of all, you are not the only gay libertarian I know. I have several friends in my life who are they're gay men. I'm sure I have some female friends in my life as well, including Billy Binion, who comes on our show quite a bit. I think in regards to Pride Month, I think people should obviously celebrate who they are in whatever way that they want. I've certainly been to my fair share of Pride parties when I was younger, and I haven't gone now simply because I just don't drink anymore since I've had children. And, the Pride stuff I've been invited to is a real party atmosphere. It's not that I don't like support from the outside. I do think it's been interesting to go into, just anecdotally, go into Target and see the Pride the merchandise wore in the back, and in the front it's all like American flags and whatever. So clearly there was a backlash, I think, to some of the T element of the LGBT community. That's a long conversation for another time, and I have very complicated feelings about it, especially in regards to women in sports, which is documented. In regards to the Harvey Milk news, I did too read that, and I just thought that it is a waste of time to focus on things like that when there are real issues in the country. I'm still deeply scared about domestic terrorism. I'm really worried about some of this like radical extremism happening in the country in regards to anti-Semitic attacks. We obviously saw a shooting that happened just a few weeks ago here in Washington, D.C. And for me, virtue signaling can do damage as well. And I just don't think, for me, it's like there's just no point. And like you said, the Harvey Milk ship is not a battleship. It's like you said, it's like my understanding is like not one that's even used. It's like parked, correct? Like in a port, it's not even used that much.
As far as I'm aware, it's just like a refueling ship. Like it just, brings boat gas. I don't know the correct term.
So I just thought it was
Yeah.
I didn't agree with it, and I just thought it was pointless and a way to sort of like I'm against DEI and I'm an anti-woke person, but I also think, to me, what I don't like is when the threshold can verge into being hurtful. I don't think there's a need to be ugly to people, to be unkind. And sometimes I think people on that side really ebb into that territory. I saw someone saying some things over the weekend about AOC, and I'm no AOC fan, but talking about her body, that I just was like, there's no point. We lose arguments when we do things like that. Go ahead, Lucas, and then Brent, would you like to answer?
And if I can just say like one other thing, like I feel like by whether it's Pete Hegseth or someone else from the State Department or the Defense Department doing this, it's kind of also really insulting to the Treasury Secretary, who is the highest ever. I mean, he has the seat of Hamilton, openly gay, not to mention Rick Grinnell, who was second in line for Secretary of the State. Like, it's not like there aren't people in the administration who aren't there representing the community also. It just feels like it's a weird, like you're sticking people, like Pete is already in hot water and he's already like jabbing in the side of other people who are quite frankly performing much better than him quite in the administration right now.
Anything, Miranda or Brent, you want to add? Or
I think it's insane to even be like, why is Pete wasting his time with this when, like you said, there's actual stuff going on? And Harvey Milk was a military veteran who was murdered
Korean War, too.
while serving his country. So I don't know if anyone is more deserving of a name of a battleship. I think this whole thing is ridiculous.
anything you want to add, Brent? Or good?
No, I mean, I'll just say that, like, I don't really know what went into the decision to name it. I also don't know when it was initially named.
It was initially named back in 2016. So this is I think right before or after Trump, right
I
before
do think
Trump
it's a
got
while
in.
ago. Yeah.
Yeah, so it
Mhm.
was almost 10 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, that probably was virtue signaling too. I'd say that, like, and you pointed it out, like, it doesn't seem as though the Trump administration.
I can understand it was virtue signaling, but don't forget that's only 4 years after gay marriage was legalized at the Supreme Court level. So a certain degree of recognition, I think, after 40, 50 years is kind of needed and
Mhm.
understood. I'll put it that way.
Sure.
Great. Well,
Thank you.
thank you so much for coming on, Lucas. Happy Pride Month, and we'll see you soon. And then, really quick before we say goodbye, Brent, we are so excited about the Daily Wire having this huge media presence in Washington, D.C. We have had one of our favorites, Mary Margaret Olohan, your White House correspondent, on several times. Tell us more about the expansion, and are you enjoying being the editor-in-chief of the Daily Wire? It's a big job.
Yeah, it's a great job. I'm enjoying it very much. So excited to have Mary Margaret Olohan at the White House every day. I mean, we're working on expanding our presence even beyond Mary Margaret Olohan in DC. I think there's a big question in media of, actually being there versus writing online kind of from a distance, writing online from a distance about, what's happening in the briefing room is probably a lot easier than actually showing up and going there every day. But the Daily Wire has a ton of subscribers, and we're trying to be their voice in Washington. So having Mary Margaret there asking the questions about what our readers actually care about is, I think, a giant step for the Daily Wire, and I hope it's not one that just is during the Trump administration. My goal is that it's in the next White House, Democrats, Republicans, whoever. I will always want the Daily Wire to, have a voice in the White House, have a voice in the halls of Congress. And I just think it's so important for news people to not lose kind of the idea of actually being there for the news. I think that's somewhere where conservative outlets probably on the whole probably lose out to the mainstream media and legacy outlets who really are there. So they're the ones asking the questions at the State Department briefings and at the Pentagon. And then conservatives fall into, I think, too much just straight commentary and getting away from the facts. We're almost reporting based on the media narratives that the reporters who are asking the questions in the briefing room kind of set up and show. So us being there kind of helps us have input on what the narrative is and on what the news cycle is. And, I'm just happy that
Sure.
Mary Margaret's doing it every day. And like, really, man, does she work hard to be there every day? It's like a lot of people think
Yeah.
White House correspondent is glamorous. It's just a slog every day, and it's hard being there. So we're going to keep doing it, and we're excited about it.
Yeah, we love her. I just think she's so smart and so hardworking, and she always gives me like interesting breaking news, which I appreciate. And we obviously appreciate all the amazing work you guys are doing at the Daily Wire. We're huge fans, going to continue being huge fans. And thank you so much for your time, Brent. And please come back anytime.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
Mhm. Okay, that's Brent, and you can obviously follow him on X and Instagram at Brent Sher, Scher is how you spell his last name. Okay, we're going to morph to, and also if anyone has any more questions, please raise your digital hand. Thank you again to Lucas for joining the conversation. We have to talk about Terry Moran, though, the Terry Moran of it all. Miranda, I love this story because I think we are just making an assumption here. This is just alleged.
Our
This is our theory.
theory. Yes.
I think ABC news correspondent, he has a big fat title, but it's not written on my notes, so I don't remember what Terry Moran does, but he's a big journalist at ABC. I worked with him when I worked at ABC. He recently gave, I believe, ABC's first interview with President Trump. So at 12:08 on Saturday, so Sunday morning, midnight.
Over the weekend, yeah.
Over the weekend, can we show the graphic, please? Number one, Terry Moran tweeted a long thing criticizing the Trump administration and Stephen Miller. He said the thing about Stephen Miller is not that he is the brains behind Trumpism. Yes, he is one of the people who conceptualizes the impulses of the Trumpist movement and translates them into policy, but that's not what's interesting about Miller. It's not his brains, it's bile. Miller is a man who is richly endowed with the capacity for hatred. He's a world-class hater. You can see this just by looking at him, because you can see blah, 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 blah. Trump is a world-class hater, but this hatred, blah, blah, blah. He hates Republicans. He hates Trump. He hates Stephen Miller. We fucking hate Republicans, blah, 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 blah. I think he was drunk tweeting. He has since been suspended
Ooh,
by
mamacita.
ABC News. That's my allegation. It's just what I'm assuming, because nothing else really. Why are you tweeting that at midnight? I don't understand. Like, do you not have, also with these people, like, do you not have families? Do you have a life? Like, I got a news request, like a media request, a nasty new media request, by the way, from MSNBC on Saturday over the weekend. And I was like, what the hell do you think I'm doing on Saturday? I'm with my children. We're outside playing on the trampoline. Go to hell. Like, I just, like, sometimes I wonder if some of these people just don't have lives. And it's different if there's like breaking news, but why is Terry Moran allegedly, we're assuming, possibly drunk tweeting? Now he's been suspended by ABC News. Do you think he'll be fired? And what was your takeaway on this? But I should thank Terry Moran, because I love a messy tweet story.
That's
I
what I was
love
gonna
like
say.
a
Like,
messy.
I would just like print that out and frame it if someone called me a world-class hater. That is an
I know.
ultimate
Someone said
compliment.
I'm bile.
Yeah, it sounds like I honestly, I like, you know me, that's my sense of humor. I love that shit. That
Yes,
fuels me.
you would put it on a mug. You would.
Yes, I would. Like, Miranda is a world-class hater. Fuck yes. That is the best thing you could ever say to me. This is crazy. His network just had to pay one of the biggest
I
lawsuit
know.
things, whatever, and then he does that. So it's like, at what point is he sabotaging his career? Maybe like you said, he wants to spend more time with his family. He's trying to get fired. That I don't understand the thought process behind it, other than he's like, I'm gonna stand up for what I believe in, and F journalistic integrity and all of that. So the Terry Moran stuff was very interesting to see, kind of like the sociological perspective of it, because a lot of people are like cheering him on and, yeah, this is exactly right, and Stephen Miller is a hateful bigot and whatever. But at the same time, it's like, when you're a member of the press and you're trusted and you do give thoughtful, and you have earned the right to interview the sitting president of the United States, you can't go and tweet things like that, because all it does is reinforce this narrative of the fake news and the biased news and all of that stuff. So you're fucking yourself, and you're fucking your network.
Totally.
So
Totally.
bad move. I don't know that he's able to come back from this, because how can anybody trust him again?
Well, I think that's the salient point in this, is like, we are both commentators. It's like, I don't have a problem if you want to be a resistance porn commentator. There's good money in that. I mean, those Bulwark people
That's
make
where
good
actually,
money.
like, more money sometimes
Yeah,
is
I
in
think
this
actually
space.
a never Trump resistance person, like, that's the way to make. I mean, look at those Lincoln Project people. I think they made hundreds of millions of dollars, if I remember correctly. The
Mhm.
problem is people like us who are trying to shoot it straight and narrow. But I just don't understand, like, if you're Terry Moran and when I worked at ABC, I thought he was just a journal. Like, I really just thought he was like sort of a middle of the road straight journalist. So I don't understand. He's smart. You don't get to that level if you're not smart.
Right.
I just don't know what he was doing, which is why I thought he might have been drunk, because that's kind of the only, like, that's the easiest explanation for me.
And
But
on
go
Friday
ahead.
or whatever, Friday into Saturday or Saturday, whatever. I mean, there wasn't anything like incendiary going on. That was when we were at peak, like Elon Trump breakup memes and all that stuff. So the LA riot protests hadn't even started yet. So what was he so hot about? That's what I want to know. Like, what got him there?
Yeah, and I just, like I said, I think there is such a crisis in this country. And again, I want to, like, there are actual legitimate journalists that are just straight journalists that you and I really like admire and like, love, and really just like really respect. Like, there's quite a few. I always feel like I need to make a master list of like journalists you can trust by Meghan and Miranda. Maybe we'll do that at some point. But I think that he has blown up his career. Maybe ABC will keep him and they won't fire him, but this has done a lot of damage. And I actually think, and I say this as someone who is like a very online constant tweeter, I think the classiest people in media are the ones who are not active on social media.
Mhm.
Like, I love a like vacant Twitter account when it comes to someone that I like am
It
interested
makes
in their
me
work.
it makes me mad when I want to see a hot take or an interesting
Totally.
something, and I'm like, you haven't tweeted since 2010? What is this about?
Totally. But there's just something very sophisticated about not tweeting. And again, I say this as like a trash bucket person who's always tweeting, but like, I don't know. I love a journalist who will only, or if they have social social media, it's clearly run by like their assistant or their producer just to put their content out.
Mhm.
So I just never understand. You got to be so careful with Twitter. I know that better than anyone. I've screwed up on Twitter a million times. I'm always screwing up on Twitter, left and right. And I have patient partners here at Two Way that are kind about it. But I do not drink, so whatever. But like, I haven't tweeted a midnight rant since I was in my 20s. So what you doing, Terry
That's
Moran,
what
who
I
I
want to
think is in his
know.
60s?
What was he
What
so
we
hot
doing?
about? What was he so hot about? He must have had a fully charged dinner that night with some friends because he
Totally.
went home.
He
He went
totally
home
went to a
steaming. Yeah.
boozy dinner, like just, and
Just
at that
talking
dinner they were
shit. Yeah.
ranting about Trump and
Mhm.
Stephen Miller,
He's
and
like,
he was like,
I'm gonna tweet this and then I'm gonna pass out with my Ambien. Yeah.
totally.
Been there.
Okay. Okay, next hot topic for us. We do have new Annabelle news. We love an Annabelle update, haunted occult doll, which by the way, the Warren Occult Museum in Monroe, Connecticut will not get back to us. Ah, no! Oh my God.
We have a
Where did you
friend.
get that? For people listening, Miranda has the
I'm not
Annabelle
the only
doll.
one who has one. Hang on.
I don't want that near
Ashley
me.
might have something for you.
Oh my God. I don't want this near me. I really don't like it. I'm not kidding. It's making me uncomfortable.
Ashley's is not mine is like a real
Where
arrow.
did you get that? Where did you get that? Oh my God.
So I got
Ah,
mine.
an
I got
antique
mine on
store.
eBay. And then I texted Ashley about it, our producer, and I said, you've gotta
Why the fuck did you bring a haunted doll into the studio? Oh my God, get that away from me.
No,
She got an Annabelle doll at an antique store. Haven't you learned your lessons? I'm not kiiding. Keep that thing away from me.
Lindsay was not happy. So
Yeah,
sorry.
Lindsay's not her. Ashley's wife's not happy. Of course not. Also, I am too. Get that out of here. Why do you have that behind you? We had an
'Cause
Annabelle update. Now I'm
she's
so
so
confused.
cute. Look at
Why
her.
did you go to a store and buy that? Both of you?
I found it.
Oh,
I had already gotten
Ah!
mine, and Ashley knew about it, and then she happened to be at a store that
Ah.
had them, so she got one for you
that's
too.
that's how the Annabelle doll originally like came to be, is that someone got it in like an antique store and brought it home. It was haunted as hell. Better in your house than mine. The update with your Annabelle doll, that should just stay there every show.
She's going to, yeah.
So the doll is back home at the Warren's Occult Museum in Monroe, Connecticut. After a brief tour around the country that sparked rumors about her disappearance, we live updated that she had not disappeared.
Right.
But Tony Spera, who is the doll's custodian, that's a hell of a job, Tony Spera. That's a weird job, okay?
It's like Annabelle's babysitter. That's so odd.
Yeah, he confirmed you could pay, say, Megan, here's $30 million. You need to be in the doll's custodian. I'd be like, the fuck I am not
I
a
would
doll's
take it.
custodian. Nope, no. He confirmed that Annabelle was never out of control and that multiple religious protections were in place, including Catholic blessings and holy water. Annabelle is scheduled to go on tour again this summer with a stop in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, just coming up in July. So she's fine. But I really don't like these dolls in my studio or at your house. How are you comfortable with that?
It's
Why
not
does that
it
there?
doesn't have a vibe, this one. I don't know what to tell you. There's only one Annabelle, and it's not mine, babe. So I'm not worried about it. My daughter,
No.
Cece, my creep, she is obsessed with it and she loves it. And so she was very, very thrilled that I got it. And
She
I was worried
was.
she was going to spill the beans to you and Liberty, like on a FaceTime or a Zoom, because I was very concerned she was going to show it off.
Did
So
she know that it's haunted?
she knows about Annabelle. Yep, she knows. Not all of it. I'm not letting her watch the movie. She's 5 years old, but she knows that Annabelle can be haunted. And so,
I don't know.
but my 8-year-old, for what it's worth, is not effing with this doll. Does not like it
Whose
at all.
idea was this? Ashley's or Miranda's? You're both fired, both of you. I don't like these dolls
Fine.
in here.
This is Annabelle's fault, causing more chaos.
We have some life updates on both Miranda and my end. So Friday, as I was getting ready to make dinner for my girls, I find out that my daughter slipped and fell on the playground and her Clover hurt her back of her head. And I got to spend 4 hours in the ER getting her stitches, which was horrific. And let me tell you, we have to get her stitches taken out later in the week.
No, they didn't do the
Yes.
dissolvable ones.
No, I know, and I have questions about that too, by the way. But whatever. And she only had two. It's not like the end of the world.
Oh,
She has
okay,
this like
just two.
little.
Yeah.
But it was. Let me tell you, anyone who's ever, this is like a rite of passage for me because somehow Liberty has never had to have stitches. It is like it was like a horrific experience. I almost threw up
It's
when they were doing it.
traumatizing.
It's horrific. I think it's like traumatizing for her. So if any parents have any suggestions of what to do with like getting the stitches out and honestly, you know, put Miss Rachel's politics aside, she has a new episode out that I was so grateful for that Clover watched while we were waiting for the doctor to come. But god damn, it is kids and stitches is horrible. She's fine. She's literally at a playland right now. She's totally
Yeah.
fine.
They bounce back so
But
fast. When
she
Coco
was
was
fine.
like
Yeah.
8, maybe 10 months old, she was a baby. She slipped in the bathtub and hit her face, and we had to go get her stitches. And she was like a little baby, and they had like wrapped her up like a mummy to put the stitches in. And I was just like, she was fine. She was just sitting there chilling, and I was the one who was the mess. So I don't know. My advice, if you're gonna have your kids, is get it out of the way early, because then they don't remember it. She has no idea. There's no memory. There's no trauma.
And for people yelling, where was Ben? Ben was in California on a work trip, making a speech.
He was here at the riots. Yeah.
Like, yeah, Ben was throwing a Molotov
Ben was
cocktail
throwing
at
rocks with a Palestine
free
flag.
Palestine flag. That was Ben. Yeah, that was
Sorry,
totally
that's a pain imagery.
You're gonna kill me. It's okay. But like I said, it was like really traumatizing. It was like a really horrific.
You were there for a really long time. It was like
Yes,
hours and
and
hours and
then
hours.
and then to give you guys like way too much information, and then we will say goodbye. I had door dashed kava. Do you know that place like that's like the
Yeah.
chicken is like
Yeah, it's
healthy? So
good.
it's like I'll give the girls a healthy dinner on my way back. And when I got home, birds had eaten my kava, like had torn
No.
apart. Yes, like had
That's an
torn apart the
expensive
bag.
meal for those
I was
birds.
so mad. I door dashed it, like you said, is expensive. Like I mean, it's not cheap, whatever. And I literally was like, "All right, we're having McDonald's." I never do that. We're having
So they got
we're just-
McDonald's. Good for them.
Oh yeah, I was like,
You
so
know
they
what
had
though?
McDonald's for dinner
If not
after.
after getting stitches, when is a Happy Meal appropriate?
I
That
know.
is
I
the
literally
best
was like,
way.
we're having chicken nuggets now, but I was just like, this is just a sequence of unfortunate events. But like I said, she's
What a
getting her
day.
stitches taken out later in the week after our second show. So if anyone has any advice on this was like I'm not trying to be a little bitch about this. Like normally I'm an extremely tough person, and like Clover getting stitches almost, I was like, I like can't, I like should never have had children because I can't emotionally
Was it you were you? Oh, it's
this.
emotional, not like a physical
All of it,
squeamish
like having to
reaction.
hold her head while they did the stitch. I was
Yeah.
crying, like, 'cause I thought I was gonna throw up. I don't like blood anyway. So anyway,
Yeah, they should
all
not
right.
make us do that. They made me do that with Coco too. I had to hold her head, and Nick held her
Mhm.
body. I'm like, isn't this your job? I'm not
Horrible.
qualified for this. Yeah. Oh, it was
Horrible.
scary.
All right. On that note, Stitches, Annabelle doll, riots in LA. I get that goddamn doll. I
She's
do
so
not.
sweet. If you love her, she'll be nice.
I don't like anything like that. I don't know why Ashley has that. It's bad news bears. I do not. We actually don't know who our guest is going to be Wednesday, but I'm sure it will be somebody good. We're going to play it by ear. We should maybe just do a solo show, Miranda. Maybe we should just
Sure.
explore that. Thank you all for listening. Please subscribe on YouTube. Our little channel is growing very, very, very slowly, but it is growing. And thank you for listening on our podcast, obviously. And thank you for Zooming. And thank you, Lucas, for asking a question. And yes, happy Pride Month to all of our LGB. I don't know if we have any T listeners, but if we do, you're welcome here as well. But to anyone who is listening and a part of the queer community, we hope you're having a lovely Pride Month and celebrating who you are. All right. On that note, thank you all so much. We'll be back again, same time, same place on Wednesday. See you soon. Get that doll out of here.
Bye.